It's another week in the tumultuous lives of Eagles fans as it is. No ups and downs here, people, just all downs lately, it seems like. But we're back for a special Halloween edition of the Where Eagles Dare podcast, because yes, the Eagles, along with most of the NFL, are going to be playing on Halloween this week. So that should be interesting.
It should be.
As always, my partner in crime is here with me. It is Tubby, my Cisco to my Poncho, my my Tonto to my Lone Ranger, whatever else you want to do. My Butch Cassidy to my Sundance Kid. We're back again, and you know, I think all those characters have in common is they went through pain together, and so we get to go through pain together. But like I said, it is Halloween, and that's why we got the the nice graphics up there for the Halloween show. So what do you think of that? I did that to myself in Photoshop. Did you like that?
Oh yeah, man. In the preview, I was like, Greg's Lee is working extremely hard on the podcast, man.
Yeah, you can call me Greg. You can call me Lee. It's okay. I mean, Lee is what I go by on the show, and you've known me forever. You know me as both, so it doesn't matter.
I got you.
But I got you a little holiday treat. So here we go.
It is this Pokemon! Hey! I say do something. Booga booga!
So, a little something like that on Halloween. Are you getting into the Halloween spirit this week? And you got kids.
Not really, man. My I got into the spirit a little bit. My son is Venom this year.
Really?
My daughter is a fairy or pony or something like that. Something pink with a lot of colors in it. And unicorn. My daughter's a unicorn. That's what she is.
Oh, unicorn.
I took my son to go see Venom last week.
Yeah.
He has the Venom costume. He's been Venom before. He loves Venom. So I took him to see Venom in Carnage or what have you. And I guess we got in the mood a little bit with that. He can't wait to wear his costume. He wanted to wear it to the movie theaters. I was like, we're gonna save it in case you get popcorn on it. We're gonna save it. But I guess so. Well, we haven't decorated the house or anything like that. Nah.
We live down kind of a private lane, so you've been to the house, you know where it's at. But so it's like no kids ever come down our street.
Really?
So the wife, they just don't come down because there's 3 houses down. It's a little bit more of a walk. So they just look down the street and go, so if we want to give out candy, we got to go to the end of the street and sit out there with the back of the truck. That doesn't look great. So
it doesn't look great at all.
No.
As long as you're not in a white van, I think you're okay though.
So we just don't. We used to put stuff up, and now we don't really put up anything anymore either. But yeah, it's funny because my kids are all grown, so you're still in that realm where they're you got to get in the costumes, you got to go out and hang out with them, and take them around the neighborhood and get all the free candy, and then you get to eat most of their candy. But yeah, as soon as you get the kids a costume, man, the first thing you want to do is put it on and just wear it to school.
Right. I don't blame him at all.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Halloween, it was quite the nightmare this past Sunday. We were going to go live on Tuesday, or actually we were going to go Monday, and you had some internet issues. So you had another nightmare of your own there.
Yeah, man.
So we pushed it back to Tuesday, and then finally it was like, you know what, let's just do another full show. So in the future, what we plan on doing is doing an episode of a recap on Monday nights live, and then airing on our podcast streams on the following day on Tuesday. And then we're going to do the preview shows live on Wednesday. That way we kind of break it up when we kind of do maybe an hour each. And then we're not sitting here for 2 hours talking about everything in the world, because then we get exhausted after that. Got to use the bathroom, all that good stuff. So, and then we'll air those. We'll post those to all of our podcast providers on Thursday, the actual preview. But this will be, if everything works out, this will be our last full show with everything in it. So we can kind of focus on recap and then preview separately.
Right. And real quick, man, shout out to Bob Powers. I see you in the chat, man. What's up? Thanks for stopping by. Man. Checking out that. I know that guy too, man.
That's right. Good to hear you. Good to see you in the chat, Bob.
How's Awesome doing?
Yeah, exactly. Bobby Awesome.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Thanks for stopping by, man. It's dope, man. But go
Yeah,
ahead, Greg.
always glad. Yeah, good to see somebody here. And if you want to join us, yeah, actually every week we're here on YouTube Live, we're on Facebook Live. We're out of YouTube jail now, which is good for now. So we do something else wrong. I don't even know what we did wrong the last time, so they wouldn't tell me. And then we're on Twitch as well. And then what we also want to do is invite you, if you want to check us out on the podcast providers, we're on Amazon Music, we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Audible, we're on just about everything. Stitcher. I looked at our analytics, and right now we have about 60 listeners, which is, it's getting off the ground. This is episode 8. I can't complain. And a good number of them are on Stitcher, which I was like, out of all the providers,
Really?
I would have thought, Podbean or Amazon Music or Spotify, but no, they're mostly on Stitcher. So go figure. I think it was like 14 out of the 60. So pretty good. So if you want to hear us, that's where you got to go. And then just subscribe, and you'll get notified every time we post a new episode. And then also, if you want to send us some comments and suggestions, or just get your name mentioned on the podcast, you can email us at lee.bird, and that's .byrd .eaglesdare@gmail.com. So now we got the business stuff out of the way. Let's get through this nightmare of a game, like I said, fitting enough for Halloween. So Eagles play last Sunday at 4:30 in Las Vegas. I think we both felt like this was a game that the Eagles could win fairly comfortably. I didn't expect it to be such a debacle that it was. And now that it's over, I have a lot of different feelings about this team than I had before the Raider game. Everything is been flipped on its head after watching that performance. Everything kind of was revealed. All those trends we saw in the first 6 games, it just came to light in the 7th one. It was an out and out disaster.
100%, man. And like I said, we were talking throughout the game, and it just seems like just starting with the first quarter, man. It just seemed like remember we always talked about those scripted plays. So the Eagles come out, got our scripted plays, and it all worked out like it's been doing. Some weeks, sometimes we had really slow starts, but like you said, man, then it seemed like once the Raiders got the ball, we got exposed. All our weaknesses got exposed, especially on defense. Offense and defense, bad game all around, but we'll go through it.
Well, yeah, no,
paper cut.
You started off exactly what I was going to start off with, and it was the opening drive for the Eagles. You get your hopes up, but we've learned, if you've watched the last few weeks, is that they come out with the scripted plays and run down the field, and it was no different. They had everything laid out, and what I think it was funny because you were talking about messaging. I blew up your phone on game day. I mean, I send you probably 5 texts for every one because I get really animated. So it was like I'm looking back at the text, and it cracks me up because I was very hopeful, and I was like, oh, look they're running the ball. That's a change. You can see the change. Oh, great. More designed runs.
Right.
For Sanders, because he had 6 carries before he got hurt.
When he had that 9-yard run and that 7-yard run, that's what you were talking about. You were like, hey, design runs, but it was those 2 runs on that drive, 9 and 7 yards that, design runs. They look really sharp. And you were hitting me up about that for sure.
I was like, this is what we wanted to see. I mean, he had 6 carries for 30 yards before he went down. And so the Eagles scored with that kind of really cute swing pass, or a little slant pass to Gainwell in the open space, got him a touchdown, and everything was good. And then the Raiders get the ball, and it's Jonathan Gannon and that defense all over again. And it was so prototypical of what we've seen all season long with this. And he doesn't learn. I think the only game that he didn't play this style of defense was the Carolina game, where we saw some pressures, we saw a few blitzes. But they're next to last in the league in pressures. This team is. And the reason is that quarters defense, where everybody sits back and waits for something to happen.
It's almost like we get to you and get the sack, mainly by Hargraves, or we don't get to you at all, or the pocket has been really comfortable for a lot of quarterbacks. And man, Carr especially, he was back there. He had a lot of time, and like you said, the defense was not aggressive at all. Man, it did look like, same soup, just reheated. Another week, same thing Tom Brady went through the week before. And this is the reason why we're on a 2-game losing streak right now.
Yeah, exactly. And we can't say it enough. We talked about it every week, so we're not going to talk about how bad the linebackers play, how bad Derek Barnett is playing, not getting to the quarterback. We haven't mentioned Josh Sweat's name in weeks. Fletcher Cox. Nobody's doing anything on that defense. The only bright spot we had in that defense was Avonte Maddox. I thought, and actually, I was looking up Avante's stats. I mean, his catch percentage is one of the lowest on the Eagles, period, as far as receivers catching balls in his area. It's great to have him out there in that slot corner. And he made the pick because Raiders come all the way down the field. And if it wasn't for Avonte, it would have been 7-7 a lot earlier. But he picks off the ball right at the goal line on their first drive. And we were like, all right, at least he bailed us out. But just prior to that, there were some things that made you want to bang your head against the table. And one of them was the 4th and 3, where they get a penalty for holding on the 4th and 3.
Right.
And our coach decides that even though the punt team for the Raiders is already out on the field, you know what? We're going to go ahead and take the penalty.
And he immediately, if you watch the film or, when you're watching the game, he immediately tells them, move him back. I'm like, why isn't he declining this penalty?
Yeah.
Why is he declining this penalty? He's real sure of himself too. Move him back. We haven't been able to stop them on this drive, period. And you want to give your defense another shot at this? It was just another rookie coach mistake. It was a rookie coach mistake. He is a rookie coach, and this is a rookie coach mistake.
Exactly. And so you give him another chance on 3rd and 13. And, the whole point of that is okay, well, you back him up a little bit. I still don't understand it because the referee was like, already was getting ready to say decline. I think he even said declined. And then they overturned it. And so the Raiders punt team was on the field. And
the ref went back like, what did this rookie coach say?
I know.
Bro, I was trying to help you out, because officials will do that sometimes. They'll kind of look you in your face like, you want the holding call? And you're like, yeah, I'm taking the holding call.
Well, I could tell you if he had heard me, if Nick Sirianni had heard me on my couch, he would have heard this.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
Because that's what I was doing. What are you doing? And so what does he do? He gets the 3rd and 13, and Derek Carr, just floats a beautiful pass to Zay Jones down to the 14-yard line. So great job there. Now again, we had Avonte Maddox's interception that kept a touchdown off the board there, but that was another symptom of the inexperience and the bad decisions that our coaching staff makes. So when you see that, it doesn't inspire confidence. The defense can't be happy about that. It set the tone for bad things to happen. Nevertheless, that right after that, they get down to the 14 and they get another holding call. It was a common theme throughout the day. Whenever the Raiders got a holding call or any type of penalty, the Eagles were bailing them out in that soft zone. Mm-hmm. And so they hit the pass right over the middle that got him down to the 5-yard line just before the Avonte Maddox interception. I mean, you and I were actually, I'm looking at the text because I was like, yours was like, why not decline the hold? I said, I thought they did. What the hell? Just gave him a play. Yeah, and then you came back with, I said, middle's wide open. You came back with still concern for how easy that play was for 16 down to the goal line. And so even we got the interception. We were like, man, if this is the defense we're going to play today, we're going to be in trouble. And they never got out of it. The whole from the first quarter. I mean,
man, that's a good point. And yeah, just, as I'm reliving it, absolutely. Because you always have symptoms right there. You're like, I know, even on the Maddox interception, you go, well, they were driving pretty seamlessly until that Maddox tip and interception or what have you. And then the same thing here, you get the hold and you go, you exhale because you go, all right, okay. They're about to punt. You see the punt team running on. You see it. And then you just kind of know, like, man, here goes Zay Jones, just reiterating everything you talked about. But I don't know, man. It's more of the same. And you can just see in the defense posture. It's just a posture of the team. When they're lining up, they're just like going through the motions.
Oh, exactly. And again, this was like a lot of other games that we've seen with the Eagles this year where because they came out and scored first, their defense was playing the bend but don't break. So the Raiders are using a lot of time. They get the turnover, and the Eagles get the ball back. And then we see the Eagles move the ball a little bit, but we saw probably, and we'll really break down his play as it goes on, probably one of the more inaccurate games Hurts has had this season. He was throwing behind Devontae Smith. He was throwing things, in the dirt toward the receivers, especially on screen passes. He was really putting them in a bad position. And what really upset me when Sanders went out was that screen never should have been thrown. For one reason, the Raiders sniffed it out. So he was setting Sanders up to get walloped in that position. So you've got to make a decision not to throw the ball there. Our offensive lineman Driscoll was standing side by side with Kelsey on that play, and I watched it several times over. Doesn't even look at the Raider lineman coming through to make the play on the screen. Driscoll's partly to blame for that because he touched no one. So he didn't even touch the Raider defender that smacked into Sanders.
Driscoll had a couple goofy plays.
Yeah.
That was one of them.
And so we're seeing that this guy that we got, and it really is showing where we're hurting in that guard spot because Sayamalo's out, Brandon Brooks is out. Because we're down to our third offensive guard in that spot. And Driscoll's not, he was a practice squad guy. He's not a starter. He's making mistakes like that where maybe Brooks doesn't make that mistake on that screen.
Brooks won't make that mistake on that screen. We're talking about an all-pro when you talk about Brooks. So he won't make that mistake. And to your point, we have him. We also have a natural center, Dickerson, playing guard as well. But he's that wasn't his fault on that play. But whether it's the Sanders play or when he got Watkins hit a couple times this year on quick screens. So it's just about sometimes, man, you don't have to throw the screen on every, even if that's the play called, or just throw it to the dirt versus your player getting absolutely, because we know the linemen are running downfield as well too, because they're anticipating the block, so you can get an eligible receiver downfield if you don't throw the ball in a timely manner. So then just throw the ball to the feet. That's what a responsible quarterback would do, is just dead the ball in the direction of the receiver so you don't get an intentional grounding call because it's still behind the line of scrimmage of a screen. And then you just move on with the game. But even to your point of missing receivers, last game and this game, he's taking a long time for the play to develop. Our guys are open. I watched this game and I'm like, no, Smith is running incredible routes. Rager is running, really good routes, but Smith, he's clinical with his route running. He still needs to work on getting pushed out of bounds and getting past the defender to get to the deep ball. But the intermediate routes and below, Smith is a surgeon with those routes. And he's been open a lot, man. His stat line should be a lot higher, and Hurts is the fault for that. 100%. The last two games, get that bird's eye view and I'm really looking at the progressions, and the progressions are there, dude. Like, throw the ball, bro. You have your 7-step drop. Throw the ball. Anticipate the route coming open. You don't have to see it 100% and then throw it. I think that's where he's had success, when he'll hit the tight end in those intermediate routes, because they're kind of sitting there in the pocket for a while, and he's like, oh, okay. But what I'm seeing with Hurts is the inability to anticipate the route coming open based off the coverage that's presented. So if it's covered, so that safety isn't going to slide, that certain route is open. So it's a lot of recognition on his part, man, because we do at last 2 weeks, even though we've lost poorly, we've had some receivers that have been wide open, and Smith has been one of them. So now the jury is out on Hurts. It's another game. I don't want to jump quarters, but it's another game where he is yet to exceed 100 yards in a half. Yeah. And at some point that just becomes unacceptable.
Exactly.
Period.
And that one thing, one of the plays in the first quarter that really depressed me it was just a simple slant route to Devontae Smith, and he's wide open, and he throws it right behind him. And I saw multiple times in this game that even though Hurts walked away with 0 interceptions, there were several times during the game where it was just a hair's breadth away on screen passes. And I think where the fans are really upset right now on the offensive side of the ball is not just Hurts's play, it's these constant bubble screens and screen passes this underneath stuff that they continue to do in the first 2-3 quarters of the game. Because even though Hurts is being inaccurate, the bubble screens aren't helping. And so when we talked about, hey, here they come out running, and then when Sanders gets hurt, it really affected the whole game plan because Gainwell's not the type of back like Sanders is. He can't run through the line. So they tried it a couple times with Gainwell, and then immediately here comes Boston Scott in to run the ball. But Boston Scott's no Sanders. And we know this. Sanders is better than a lot of people give him credit for. He's shifty.
100%. 100%.
And so a guy like that comes out of the lineup, and now it changes the whole scope of our offense. So what do? They go right back to the bubble screens, go right back to the running back screens out of the backfield, getting blown up because nobody falls for those with our defense. And I said to you on the text some of the time was like, it's like the timing on their screen passes are just off. It's like they don't sucker the defense in. Nobody's falling for it. So they're telegraphing everything they're doing. On the flip side of the ball, the Raiders and Kenyon Drake, which I was really surprised to see him more than Jacobs, were just like running through us like wet paper. It was sad to see 6 to 7 yards at a clip.
And when you talk about timing, I just want to make a quick stat. This isn't an excuse for the Eagles. It's just a fact. The Eagles, if we talk about timing, I think that's where like inertia comes in. Just those reps. You're just consistently doing something. The Eagles have had the most combination on the offensive line in the NFL in the past 2 years.
Right.
So you're going to have a timing issue there. And I think that goes back towards the ineligible receiver downfield because it's a big timing issue. Yeah. So when you literally are just piecing together a line week to week more than any other NFL team, you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage, just by those very, very, very simple things. But when the Eagles are great, they have Brooks in there. We have our proper guys in there, and it does look a lot better with, say, Amalu and whatnot. So we are at a disadvantage. I've talked about the line not even getting off the snap the past few weeks. There's something wrong. There's more deeper issues than Hurts for sure. Mm-hmm. But when you wear that C, and you're the quarterback, it's always going to start with you.
Right.
But we definitely know that if you have 20 different combinations of line, that doesn't help as well.
Well, yeah, like I said, we're having Driscoll in there and Dickerson having to play out of position, and then Mailata coming back into his regular position at left tackle. But he's clearly not over that ankle injury because he was getting beat.
He's slow.
Gave up 2 big sacks in the second quarter. The thing was so funny was that the Raiders didn't even score their first touchdown until 11:24 left in the second quarter. So they were kept off the board for the whole entire first quarter. But when the touchdown they did score was to their tight end backing up Moreau. And they made that guy look like, it made him look like he was Waller out there because our linebackers can't cover the tight end.
Right.
And it's frustrating. So, we're sitting there at 7-7. And honestly, until the wheels came off at the end of the second quarter, I mean, the wheels didn't just come off at the end of the second quarter. They overinflated and exploded on the highway. We had 4 blowouts at the same time. We skidded off the road, hit a tree, flipped over, a semi ran into us, drove us into an embankment. We went off a cliff, hit the ground, and exploded, pretty much, is what happened to the Eagles at the end of that second quarter. You feel me? Because it got bad. It wasn't just the fact that the Raiders were scoring points on us. It was that we weren't doing anything to stop them. We're going 3 and out. They get up, 17-7, and then they get the Gainwell fumble right before half, which if we can just keep it at there, we're okay.
Right.
And then I don't know what you thought about that Gainwell fumble. I did not think it was a fumble, but it was on the field.
It stood, but it just set up just another. It just shows our I can nitpick certain things during this game. And I'm just exhausted, really, because, these are all just symptoms of our bigger problems that we have, whether it's a Gainwell fumble or not, was it a fumble? We just got to go with what's called on the field. And you hear it said stand. It didn't say confirmed.
Right.
So it was whatever was called on the field. We were going to be at the mercy of that. but it just goes back to, ball discipline in general. Don't leave it up to the officials when you're playing bad. You have to almost overachieve. Not overachieve. I mean, hey, again, it wasn't conclusive that he was down. The ball started coming loose, whatever, but again, you can't leave it up to the officials. You have to have better discipline in that instance.
I mean, it would have been 14-7 going into half. The Eagles did hold him to a field goal there after the game-ball fumble, but we end up 17-7 going in, and it could have been a lot better but the Raiders' second drive, it was another more examples that we've seen, and you've mentioned it to me, I think, every time they've run this defensive play, where the Eagles line up in that quarters defense, and at the snap, everybody backs up 10 yards, and they leave the entire middle of the field completely wide open. There's nobody there. And I don't know how many times they hit Jacobs and Drake, like every team has done us, for a 2 or 3 yard pass just over the line of scrimmage. And then Jacob runs it for first down after first down. Jacob and Drake killed us on those plays.
And like you said, I think I text you that, like, man, how can a short pass, now we're playing so far back to cover the middle that we're letting a 2 yard run or pass go for 10, go for a first down, man. And it's just like, man, their playbook was just wide open at that point for the Raiders.
That's coaching. That's you're telling your guys, the linebackers included, that when the ball snapped, if those receivers are outside of that 10 yard mark, that's where they need to be. So we have no linebackers covering the running backs out of the backfield. It's why we consistently fall for screens, because we'll talk about it more later. They're relying on the defensive linemen to cover screens instead of the linebackers and the corners, which insanity. And don't even get me started, but we will talk about that later when we talk about Fletcher Cox's comments. But the fact that this kick kept happening and they got up 14-7 to begin with, we still are in it, just like other games. And then the fumble happens and they go into the break 17-7. And that's where they come out of halftime and it's only 17-7. It's not panic time yet. You agree with me? It's not panic time.
It's definitely not the Super Bowl.
No. And what do?
Onside kick. I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, okay, let's just get. I didn't expect it at all. And then you know what? I'm gonna be fair though. I'm gonna be 100% fair, Greg. Even though it was a bad call, Elliott still should have recovered that ball. What was Elliott even doing? He literally watched the ball as he's just slid. So but I have to be truthful here, Greg. It was a good executed onside kick. I'm sorry. No, it was a good call. Elliott, bruh, he was at like the 12-yard line. He should have. All Elliott had to do was just grab the damn ball. I mean, Greg, if we're being 100% honest here, did I like the call? No, but when you watch that replay, is no way in hell the Eagles should not have recovered that ball. Elliott wanted no smoke on covering that ball, but it was a terrible call and it was unnecessary. But Elliott, when you watch that tape, all I'm saying is when they're in the game room. when they're in the film room, the special team coach is really going to be able to look at that play and say, that ball should have been recovered. Now, the second one, we had no chance. But that first one, Elliott snatches that ball, then Sirianni looks like a genius. But when he doesn't, he doesn't.
I understand what you're saying. And I think that had they recovered that onside kick, things could have actually turned out different. But this is the type of risk this coaching staff has been taking this year. And sometimes they get them. Sometimes they go for it on fourth down, they get it. But when they go wrong, they go horribly wrong. Because all we did right there was go from being down 10 to now being down, 17. Because we're not stopping anybody. And the Raiders can't, and we give them a short field. Now they're up 24-7.
Right, with a Drake touchdown.
Yeah. And then what do we do with our first time we get the ball to start the second half after the touchdown? Absolutely nothing with it. More 3 and outs by Hurts.
So we play. If we're talking, so we get the ball back, and Hurts has a 22-yard run on that first down. He breaks off for a 22-yard, but it was called back by a mile out of face mask. And now we have 1st and 16. It's just, again, it goes to, we do have a big play. We get 22 yards from Hurts there, right? So we give up a touchdown. We get a 22-yard play from Hurts. Face mask, mile out, and now it's 1st and 16. Here we go again. We're on like the 16-yard line. or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then we have another penalty on 3rd and 3 for delay a game. So it's another game. All these symptoms to our bigger problem, man. Our bigger problem, Lee.
Yeah,
and then we punt the ball and it's a 3 and out because then we go down to 3rd and 8 with the penalty. And now we're kicking the ball. So 2 penalties on that drive. When we did, we go 22 yards in that first play with Hurts. How are we looking? We're looking good. So,
yeah. So being down 24-7, having to punt again, turn it over to an offense that hasn't been stopped by our defense, letting Carr basically complete every pass that he wants at will, letting them run the ball. It was disheartening to watch them run down the field with guys like Zay Jones and Moreau. Ruggs and Renfro were pretty good players, pretty good, but that's not who was killing us. I mean, outside of Drake, we were getting killed by Moreau and Zay Jones, and it's like, what the heck is going on here? Because nobody was being covered, and it's something that is now being exposed. That now more people are talking about. I've been saying since the second game of the season, since the 49er game, they played well in the Atlanta game, but ever since then, I've been like, I'm kind of worried about this type of defensive scheme. You listen to the podcast, you hear that every week I've been sounding the alarm bells. And this one was just the worst example because Brady lit us up and, we lost to Brady and allowed 4 touchdowns, but I don't know if it's so much Brady let off the gas or if we actually did stop him in that game. Now
Brady let off the gas. Like I said, Brady was eating sunflower seeds on the sideline mid 3rd quarter. He wasn't even thinking about anything else.
Well, it came out today that the Eagles right now are on track to set the record for highest quarterback completion percentage by an opponent. Right now it's 72%, and that's what I think the record is around. The record was set by the winless Lions back a few years ago when they went 0-16, and it was around 72.1, and we're at 72.4 right now. So we basically don't do any. We don't attack the defense, as we're not an attacking defense. We don't go after the wide receivers. We'd never bump them on the line. We're always giving them space to make plays. We don't pressure the quarterback. It's always 4-man rushes. So like Brady, Carr, how would you not be a quarterback and just love to come up against the Eagles right now? You're not going to get dirty. You're not going to get hit. And that you're going to have wide open receivers wherever you look. And as a defensive coordinator, I don't understand how you can come to work every day with that mentality and say, this is the defense that we're going to run, and this is the defense that's going to win us games. That's what's silly, most of all. Right. So, and then Hurts himself, again, because now we got to jump back on Hurts, the fumbling issues, because he fumbled 2 snaps in this game where it wasn't over his head. The second one that we're going to talk about toward the end of the game, his lineman hit. So it wasn't entirely his fault, but he fumbled 2 snaps in the game. Through multiple picks. So there's no way we're going to get back in the game. And before you know it, the Raiders are up 30. They miss an extra point, score another touchdown to 30-7, late in the 3rd quarter. It's over.
Yeah. Edwards scores the touchdown from the 1-yard line, nice little pick play. We didn't even get to that ball, and we hit a hard hit on Edwards, but just our delayed reaction to that entire play, and the crazy thing was that's a play that we normally run. Right. So how can we not see that when we run the same play from about 3 yards in? We're running a pick play right on that goal line. So I was just like, damn, man. Like, you guys should be able to see that. That's your offense right in your face. And Edwards just get a little 1-yard touchdown. And then the rest is really just garbage time stuff. If we're being honest, you got a Boston Scott touchdown. Yeah. So what?
It was interesting you said about the Edwards thing, because I did make a note that, yes, Slay basically stared at him because he didn't engage right off the line. So he's basically watching Edwards make the play in front of him, because when the ball snapped on that play, Slay is already standing in the end zone. So they throw short of the goal line, and Slay can't make that tackle before he crosses the line. And again, it goes back to the Gannon's coaching. If he's up on the line, at least giving him a shot, it's going to be harder for Derek Carr to make that play.
Right. But Edwards just kills you on the fade.
Yeah.
So you're hesitant. That was the, that touchdown to Edwards. No, the one before that. He caught it. That was Zay, I think. But I think he had a touch. Did he have a touchdown? No, that was his one. But
Edwards one is
he's been killing you over the top. He's been killing you over the top.
But when the goal line, when they're 5 yards out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. you don't stand in the end zone when the ball snapped. But Slay's I made a note that Slay's standing in the end zone when the ball snapped. That's coaching. He's being 100%. Told that even though at that point you're not going to get beat deep, you only got 5 yards to cover.
Right.
So you pop him at the line of scrimmage, and I'm acting like I'm a professional coach here, but I'm just saying this is common sense to most football fans, and this is why everybody in Philadelphia is screaming right now, is because of the type of defensive scheme we're running. And I think I even said to you, because I was dying, I said there's no pressure. There's a no pressure defense. These coaches will be gone by the end of the year if they don't change this garbage. And I said it's a one scheme defense that doesn't work because we've covered it all before. I don't know what else can be said. It's a one scheme defense. It's bend but don't break is the easy way to describe it, but it's really just let everything happen in front of you and then stop it, which I don't get the philosophy. So after that touchdown, it was over. The Eagles actually did try to make a game of it, and came down the field. And this is what killed me was they had the 4th and 10 and got the completion to Goddard. And then they had Gainwell ran to the goal line. So they get the 4th and 10 to Goddard, which was amazing. He gets down, I think, like to the 6-yard line. Maybe it was just inside the 10, somewhere around there. And then Gainwell gets the handoff and runs it down to the goal line. They're on the 1-yard line. The Eagles go for a 1 quarterback sneak on 2nd and goal and get pushed back. I think Hurts might have slipped. He just didn't didn't get through the line.
No, that was when the Raiders timed the jump.
Right.
I don't know if it was like time that somebody came across. What's his name? Number 98, Crosby.
Yeah, or
I think Crosby jumped the line and grabbed Hurts immediately. It was a hell of a play. It was like some Troy Polamalu type play where he just got around and got to Hurts immediately. I could be mistaken, but I think that's what happened on that play. Hurts was almost snatched at the snap.
So
yeah, it's just anyway. It's just more.
The point to make in that is that they're still on the 1-yard line. They're inside the 1-yard line on 3rd and goal, and they line up in shotgun. And I'm like, here we go again. This is what this team has been doing all year from the 1-yard line. And Sirianni looks at you like, what? What's the problem? I don't get it. This is what we're just trying to run an offense that's fast and mobile, and we're going to run read options. And that was probably the play that was going to be called, was just another one of these stupid read options where him and Gainwell were going to run to the right, in tandem side by side. Instead, the ball gets snapped and it hits Driscoll in the arm and it lands to the left side of Hurts. The ball hits the ground, and then he looks like a lame duck trying to pick this ball up off the ground. Instead of falling on it, he's going to try to pick it up. He ends up pulling it up between his crotch. He's holding one hand on each side, and I got a picture of it here. And this is part of a new segment that we have that I like to call, and we're going to do this each and every week when there's the Eagles do something stupid. And this new segment is affectionately called
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, to the no, no. Hell to the no, no.
I don't know why he won't just fall on the football. I think that's what I text you too. Like, why won't he just fall on
I know,
ball?
exactly.
This is what, 2nd down here?
Yeah.
2nd down. Come on, bruh.
And that's
it's like the Carolina game when he tried to pick it up with one hand. It's like, bruh, come on, man. Football 101. If you can't grasp it, just fall on the ball and save, live to play another down, man. Another, you give your team some hope. But this was goofy, man. This was super goofy.
They score a touchdown there. It's 30-14 at the time. Would have been 30-14. They do score another touchdown later, make it 30-14, and then another one after that to make it 33-22 because they get the 2-point conversion. But it greatly affected any comeback you were going to have because you're on the goal line, 3rd and goal from the 1, and we go into the shotgun, and that's when bad things happen. And this is the type of thing that Sirianni, I don't think, wants to admit. But if you look at this picture, it says it all. This is the crotch fumble is what I call it, because he tries to pick it up between his legs, one hand on each side. It looks like he's dribbling a basketball. It is the silliest thing. So it's a hell to the gnaw, and that's he's going to be our first victim of hell to the gnaw this week, which is, and we're going to do this each and every week when another Eagle does something stupid. we're going to be showing hell to the no. So that's that's something you have to deal with.
Because this drive could have we still felt like we could have salvaged the game here at this point. It was salvageable,
right. And then it was like after they do score they get it within 30 to 22. They needed a stop to get the ball back and had to have it. And that wasn't going to happen. We've seen that in multiple games where Eagles defense needs to get a stop so we can maybe have a miraculous chance, because here we go again, just like in the Tampa Bay game, just like in the Carolina game that they actually did come back and win, just like the Chiefs game, the Eagles hanging around because they're playing garbage time.
Mm-hmm.
And you made a point that, to me, I'm like, I think they should stop counting the Eagles stats once it gets up to a 24-point lead, because that's the only time they seem to come alive and actually start scoring points. And it's misleading because this team is not that good. It's every one of these teams that start playing prevent in the third quarter because they're up 3 touchdowns. That's my opinion of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're playing back already and not they're ready to let the Eagles have dinks and dunks like the Eagles do them all game, in order to just let the clock run out and win the game. Once they're up, once the Raiders were up 30-7, they're like, nah, we're not even worried about this team anymore. We're just going to sit back, not going to get anybody injured. Mm-hmm. And so, the Eagles come out looking like roses, but that's not how it was.
Right. And but I also just, when you're watching something like that, man, it's kind of what I pointed to, probably a few weeks back. Every time we get into garbage time, probably the Tampa game, when we get into garbage time, you start to see the progressions happen a lot faster for Hurts. Whether it's running, throwing, or what have you, the progressions are seamless. They are a lot faster. So what is happening in the first quarter that is not happening? I'm sorry, the first 3 quarters, or at least the first 2, because he hasn't had 100 yards in the first half in the last 3 games. So what is happening in that first half, with the exception of the first drive?
Right.
And then you see this amazing offense running very fluidly in the fourth quarter or in garbage time. So
I do think he's getting a lot of space from the defense at that point, because a lot of times Hurts has a hard time throwing into traffic because of his accuracy. When the receivers are in covered, or they're covered either in man or a good set of zone where the defenders are spaced out, I think he struggles. But then in those prevent areas toward the end of the game, the game moves a little bit easier for him, because it's like you're down so many points, you're just getting ready to you could just do whatever you want. So I think he gets a little bit more confidence. The defense is giving him more space because they're not giving him the deep ball, but they're giving him plenty of 10 to 15 yard completions. And that's when I'd say from the middle of the third quarter on, he looks like he's unbeatable at times. And I think it inflates his numbers. But here's something that, because we've been talking about this, I pulled these stats this week. And it's because we've both been saying this about Hurts. And this is what will tell you a lot about who he is as a quarterback. So this is just his first half numbers, going back to the Dallas game. Now, in the Dallas game, he was 7 of 12 for 102 yards, while Prescott was 148. In the first half of the Kansas City game, had a great first half. But again, now we know what Kansas City is. Their defense is letting everybody score 30 points. Against Kansas City, he went 18 of 24 for 214, and Mahomes only went for 144. But now let's get into the Carolina game, a game that they could have easily lost had Carolina not let him back into that game in the second half. The Carolina game, he was 15 of 24 for 74 yards in the first half. The Tampa Bay game, he was 5 of 14 for 54 yards in the first half. And in the Las Vegas game, he was 5 of 10 for 62 yards. I mean, he's barely getting over the half-century mark in each of the last 3 games in the first half.
It's almost like he needs to be up against a quarterback that has his same experience that is going to make those mistakes. Because when we look at the one versus the last 2, so we look at like Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold got benched this week, right? So, and I think he only had about 56 yards in that first half. But you look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady's 20 years, and Derek Carr, 8-year-plus quarterback, versus our guy making our 11th start. The differences do become very glaring and glowing when you're looking at a guy with 11 starts and somebody with 8 years and 20 years. So and I'm not sure, again, 3 games in a row without 100 yards is always going to be unacceptable, 100%. But you also have you have a defense that's not giving you the ball back as well too. That can help you with more repetitions because you only have 11 starts.
Yeah,
So it's a back and forth thing, but that's why I go with when I talked about earlier about with Hurts progressions he's not anticipating the throws based off of what the coverage is giving them in there. And Devonta Smith is running hell of a routes, man. This dude is a hell of a route runner, and Rager, the jury's still out on Rager. But as far as Smith goes, man, I think Smith should be getting upwards of 8+ catches a game, man. That's just how good of a route runner he is. And some of the catches that he does get are some tough catches sometimes where, he kind of had a toe tap or some tip ball or something, but a simple slant where he may take it to the house. That ball has been thrown behind him a lot. So yeah, the jury is definitely still out. But when you have so many things going wrong at the same time with the inability to run, we talked about this before, you're still putting a lot on the quarterback with 11. This is his 11th start, and you're still not running the ball. So there's so many things to get to before I can get to just Hurts. I just think Hurts is a symptom of our overall problem, man. I don't know, man.
I understand what you're trying to say, and I do think I don't want to be too hard on him, but I don't want to let him off the hook either.
Exactly, and that's where I'm at with it. I'm the first one to say, man, 3 games without 100 yards is unacceptable. But then you see a lot of goofy stuff happening around him as well, too.
By comparison, Tom Brady went 186 yards in the first half. That Jalen Hurts only had 54, and Derek Carr had 234 yards passing in the first half to Hurts' 62. So that is, and we mentioned it when in the recap, is that a part of that is inaccuracy in those situations, especially early on, outside of the first drive. First drive, you have no issues because it's scripted. But then when the plays are coming in, it seems like he's not understanding the play call. He's maybe staring down receivers. He's not leading receivers because he's throwing as they get open. That's why he's throwing behind Smith on those slant passes, because he's not leading him. He's watching him get open, and he's throwing to where Smith used to be instead of where he's going to be. And that's a big problem. And I do hear your point about the defense, because the defense is playing poorly, not getting the ball back to them. But on the flip side, when the offense is going 3 and out, the defense is coming right back on the field.
Those 3 and outs are often mixed with penalties. That's why I made that point earlier. Hurts comes out with a 22-yard run face mask on Mailata. It's just an indictment on Hurts with a 3 and out. But we have to acknowledge the fact that he had a 22-yard play. That's a big play in the NFL. That's 20% of the field he took up in one play. 22% if we being that technical. 100 yards. 22%, and then we get a call. So there's that. That's why I said it's such a mixed bag, because every time we do something great, how many touchdowns have been called back this year? How many touchdowns?
Well, I think up to the game before this one, it was 4 altogether. That I
there was upwards to 7. The stats that I was looking at, up to 7 touchdowns have been called back through the penalties. Ineligible man down the field, block. So
the pick plays, they've been called back.
Right. And that's why, to your point where it's like, you don't want to be that hard, but you also have to hold them accountable. I'm just trying to look at the game overall, from an overall perspective, and from our previous quarterbacks. When we had quarterbacks like Wentz, he had an all-pro line at times where Kelsey was healthy the whole time. Brooks played the whole season. Brooks just started really getting injured. Before that, he was an Ironman, right? He was an Ironman, all pro. So, and then you have a new coach, a defensive coordinator that I think is way over his head. We can have a head coach that is way over his head. There are just too many things to have a rookie quarterback. That's all I'm saying. It's almost like you'd be better off with a veteran quarterback in a shitty situation. I'm not going to say shitty, but a new situation.
I agree.
Versus a player that's making his 11th start in a new situation. And I think just as it goes on, man, because I think Hurts could, this is gonna sound like hyperbole, but I think Hurts can be just as good as Kyler Murray. I just think his confidence isn't there with, we look at going a little tyrant. Just bear with me for a second.
Right.
When we look at Jalen Hurts, okay, and we look at the rest of the quarterbacks around the league that are thriving, we have to look at how they got there. Kyler Murray was welcomed with open arms in Arizona, right? They knew they needed a quarterback. Josh Rosen wasn't it. He was welcomed with open arms.
Right.
When we look at right there in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow's hometown kid, he's welcomed with open arms. So he has this time to, even if he does bad or even if he gets an ACL injury, there's still hope because they welcomed him with open arms because he's a breath of fresh air for that franchise. Even if you go to Zach Wilson in New York, he's still welcomed with open arms because he's a breath of fresh air for that franchise. And they bear with him through his trials and tribulations as he goes through the season. Mac Jones is welcomed with open arms to the point where you can get rid of a veteran quarterback like Cam Newton and you start to feel that comfortability with being in the franchise. And I can go on and on with new quarterbacks that come in, but you have Jalen Hurts. He came into a bad marriage. He came into a fuzzy situation where it was a Foles versus Wentz situation. Then he comes in, Foles is gone, then there's this Wentz versus Hurts. But Hurts has never been in a situation where it's just welcome to Philly. It's kind of like, we drafted a quarterback in the second round. That's his welcome to Philly, which is a lot different. I think confidence plays a big part when you have the quarterback position. When you're at the helm of a franchise, you want to be welcomed with open arms. Right. Philadelphia is not the place that's always going to welcome you with open arms. It's more of a wait and see type city. But I just wanted to make that point in general. Because of the position that you were playing. It's not an excuse. It's just an overall observation. While I feel like Jalen Hurts always seems to be pressing like he wants to impress versus, bro, this your 11th start, bro. Learn the offense. Go through your progressions. But I feel like he is from day one, because Carson Wentz got moved up out of there. He had to prove from day one, and every quarterback I just named, they didn't have that baggage. They didn't have that we're coming off a Super Bowl type of environment. And I think that also plays a big part in Hurts. I like to say I would hate for Hurts to leave and then he becomes this gem of a quarterback. That's all.
It is possible. I'm not going to say it's definite, but it's possible that right now he's just not being coached well enough to make the strides that he needs to make, because this is a win now league in the NFL.
100%.
They're not there. There's the patience is
he's in a win now city.
Exactly. And he's in a win now year, unfortunately.
100%.
And he's getting more of the heat than say somebody like Trevor Lawrence does down in Jacksonville, who's
Trevor Lawrence as well. He's welcomed with open arms. Yeah, there you go.
Basically, Hurts is basically a rookie. He played games last year, came in, but he's a rookie and probably a worse system than if he would being under Urban Meyer. So it is I get what you're saying. You can't overlook the inaccuracy. You can't overlook the problems that he has with the mechanics. But again, you got to ask yourself, is he just not being, because he has the talent. I think we said before the podcast, we talked about Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson, similar type players that move with their feet, but they're not run first players. They move to get receivers downfield open. What Jalen Hurts does when he takes off, he's taken off to run. And it would be beneficial if he had a coach that could let him use his feet to get receivers open instead of always using his feet to try to run for the first down. You're gonna make your career longer, like Russell Wilson has. Granted, he's hurt right now, but guy's never been hurt up until this year. And you're gonna actually give yourself a more explosive offense like Kyler Murray does. Kyler Murray will dance around, and he's fast and he's elusive, but he's not always running down the field. He's always looking to make plays with his eyes. He's always watching the receivers downfield.
Right.
So you're right. We can't put this all on Hurts, but he is one of the ones on the chopping block, as 100%. Is all of the defense.
Like I said, when you wear that C on your chest, you can't avoid responsibility.
It's everyone at this point, and that's what makes it really tough to handle as an Eagles fan, because you don't know where exactly to lay all of the blame, and it's tough to deal with week to week. So just a real quick recap of the stats from the Raiders game, so we can move on. Hurts ended up with 18 of 34 for 236 yards passing. That's very misleading because a lot of that stuff was in garbage time.
100%.
Our top two receivers, Goddard and Smith, Devontae Smith had 61 yards receiving on only 5 catches, and Goddard only had 3 receptions for 70. So Gainwell had a touchdown, Rager had a touchdown, and that was pretty much it. We had Boston Scott had a rushing touchdown for us, and overall, that as a team they rushed for 135 yards, and a big part of that was Miles Sanders with the 6 carries for 5 yards a carry, which he has been. His average yards per carry has been in that range all year, and they just haven't utilized him enough.
Right. And
then on the Raiders side of the ball, it was what you thought it was. Carr went 31 of 34 for 323 yards and a 113.6 rating. Moreau, we talked about, the tight end, had 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown. Renfro had 58 yards. Edwards, 43. Zay Jones, 43. Jacobs, 3 catches for 39 yards. On the receiving side of the ball, we didn't allow a 100-yard rusher, but we allowed a total of 119 yards rushing. On the other side there, we've got, let me move this over here. We got first, actually on this page, it looks kind of equal, but it really isn't.
It really isn't.
Same 22 first downs. But when you get down into the penalties, again, we didn't make as many penalties as we normally have, 4 for 37. They were just timely, like you mentioned, in a bad spot. The 2 turnovers killed us. 2 fumbles lost and the onside kick, which is bad. So to me, that's 3 turnovers. And then time of possession, we lost the battle of time of possession again. Although this one wasn't nearly as bad, but I think, again, it comes back to where in the second half, in garbage time, they were kind of...
they let off the gas.
Yeah, they let off the gas, and the Eagles were able to keep the possession of the ball in the second half, and that skewed that numbers. Those time of possession numbers in the first half was definitely a lot different. So after the game, one of the things that came about, and we probably beat it to death, but we'll beat it to death just a little bit more. Fletcher Cox came out in his press conference and pointed out the issues with the defense and the coach, Jonathan Gannon. And he basically said that, I'm just going to paraphrase rather than read the article. He said that they're in a wait and see type mode, and it takes away his aggressiveness. He considers himself as a man who needs to pressure the quarterback, needs to get to the quarterback and get sacks, and he's not paid to wait on screens. Now, you can take that for what it is. He's come under a little bit of fire on both sides, because some people are like, you get paid to play football and you get paid to do what you're coached. But the problem with that is this is a man that's frustrated. This is a man that is used to playing, even under Schwartz, a more aggressive defense than they're playing right now. That's what he thrives on. That's what these guys do. And right now, when he gets double teamed and he has to hold back, that's affecting just his morale. It's affecting the entire defense as a whole. It's like I said during the game when I texted you. I said Gannon has lost this team. They're hanging their heads. They have no passion to go out there and make a play. And Fletch is one of the big ones that is the captain of this defense. And if you lose him, you lose everybody. And so that's where Gannon, needs to be held accountable for how poorly this scheme is. And if Sirianni can't force him to change his defensive scheme, then he's got to go. So what do you think about Fletcher's comments?
I thought it was spot on. And I thought it was, if anybody is going to call out Gannon, it has to be Fletcher Cox. He's kind of the only one that the Eagle faithful, the folks that bleed green, can respect, and we will listen to. I'm not saying Barnett or none of those guys, but we know as far as Fletcher Cox go, he's the captain of the defense. He's been around the longest. And, when you win the Super Bowl and he's an all-pro, we're going to listen to him. When he says, when you have a defender say, I know you talk about the screens and whatnot, when he says, I can just only run the plays that are being called, and he feels like he's not being aggressive. He's telling you that the defense that they're running just simply is not enough and is out of his control. And you can see that on the linemen. Even if you look at Barnett, you look across the line, they got their hands on their hips. When the next play is called, they're just kind of getting in their 3-point stance, digging in, and just kind of going with the flow. But you can kind of tell that we have a lot of talent in that line, and they don't feel like they are being utilized properly. So yeah, man, that's a problem. And if it comes Fletcher Cox, I'm with Fletcher Cox, man. I didn't hear him with this smoke for Schwartz, and that's really bad if you're Gannon.
That's an excellent point, because yes, he might have been frustrated under Schwartz, but he didn't feel compelled to come out and say it like he did in this press conference. So Gannon did have a response, and it really makes me dislike the man even more. So I'm going to read some of the things he said about what Fletcher Cox he said about Fletcher saying it, about calling him out. He said, "What any player says after a game out of frustration comes from a place of they want to win. That's what this game is all about, winning and losing. And that's where we come from, and that's where Fletch comes from." So I love that about him. So that's his first response, and this is what I have to say to that.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Because that's the BS. He's covering up his own inadequacies by saying, well, Fletch is just saying that because he wants to win. He didn't say that about Schwartz, and they lost plenty of games under Schwartz.
Right.
And I'm not a Schwartz fan, but these guys didn't come out and trash Schwartz on the press conferences like that. So later on in the same press conference, when he's asked about how the players fit into their system and that they have people that do the best in the scheme, and he says, as far as what our corners are asked to do, it fits what we have in our building for our corners, our safeties. They run the show. They're smart physical players that are good in coverage. We have that. Our linebackers, from a standpoint of when we play shell defense, are a pattern match. So they have to process and figure out who to get on and drop into zones and then match people. That they do that. Our defensive line, when we ask them to penetrate and attack, they do that. And we ask them when they play a certain style, depending on the coverage behind them, to be salty in the run game and play blocks. They do that.
You sit on a throne of lies.
No, they don't, Jonathan Gannon. Everything you just said is total and utter BS, because they don't do anything that what you said. You don't put them in a position. Now, the best thing he said, and this is the one thing that really burns me, and I swear he can't show his face in Philadelphia, because every Eagle fan would be throwing their beers in his face after this comment. So it's pointed out that most quarterbacks are completing 74% of their passes against the Eagles defense. Gannon admitted that needing to challenge more is something that he has expressed before. And this is his quote. "So a lot of times, like, you look at it, and if a completion percentage is really high, but it's really not, it's going to the success rate of them scoring or winning the game. Sometimes you're okay with it by certain overages. This is where we want the ball to go. You heard me talk about with some of the shell defenses, like we avoided an explosive play and it only got 8 yards. That's really a win for the defense."
You sit on a throne of lies.
Seriously, dude. You think that is an adequate answer for why you're giving up 74% of completions to every quarterback in the NFL? That's your answer? Come on, dude. Seriously. This is the mindset. This is danger zone. This is red flags. This is where this guy is convinced that his scheme is right, and that just because he doesn't give up a 74-yard touchdown, it's okay to give up a 74% completion percentage. Again, it comes back to what I've said every week of the podcast that I've watched Gannon's defense. If you're giving up 8 yards and you consider that a win, you need to go somewhere else and coach football, because what you're doing is you're giving 8 yards up every single play, and you're giving up time of possession. The Eagles offense can't get on the field to work out and get into a rhythm so they can score any points. This is the thing when Fletcher Cox says there's a problem, and this guy comes out and responds this way, you know there's a problem in Philadelphia, especially with our defense.
100%, man. I'm with you on that. Yeah. Gannon is, he doesn't look like, this is not the scheme that we can use going forward.
Yeah. It isn't. It isn't. It's got to change. So we've tried to come to grips with what the Eagles need to do to change. But I do want to, and who's to blame? We've said before that it's partly the defense, partly the offense, partly the special team. Well, not really the special teams. They've had block punt. They've made field goals this year. So it's the coaching, the offensive coaching, the defensive coaching, the individual players hurts. But I have a list of 5 reasons why I think the Eagles are where they are and why they're at 2-5 today. So I'm going to give you my 5 reasons why the Eagles are here right now at 2-5. Number 1, and let's get there. Howie Roseman, the general manager, is the one who makes the decisions at the top. He's the one who brings the players in. He's the one that's ultimately in charge of the draft. He's the one who decided to hire Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, who's doing an amazing job. Brandon Staley has actually physically expressed the reason he didn't come to Philadelphia or even interview was because of Howie Roseman, because of the relationship that Howie Roseman has with the owner, Jeffrey Lurie. He doesn't want to be a part of that. And the member of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff didn't want to come here as well. So they missed out on interviews. It's almost as if Nick Sirianni was named the head coach because he would answer to Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. So let's go to number 2, Howie Roseman. Howie Roseman's drafts have been abysmal. We've talked about it before, that this man does not invest in the linebacker core. So while we can blame the linebackers for the situational passing where they have to stay in a shell defense, the truth is we don't have an aggressive linebacker like Micah Parsons or Khalil Mack or anybody that can go out there and make a play at the linebacker spot. And that's on Howie Roseman for his abysmal draft. All right, number 3, Howie Roseman. Again, going back to the draft, the man took J.J. Arcega-Whiteside before DK Metcalf came off the board, and many other receivers, McLaurin,
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, and then the following year, we take Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. The man's first-round picks, like Andre Dillard, complete and utter total bust. He is the one who generated the controversy with Carson Wentz. Now, you notice today, I haven't showed it. I'm wearing my Carson Wentz jersey. The man has 11 touchdowns and 1 interception. Not saying I'm going to become a Colts fan. What I'm saying is maybe Carson wasn't the problem. Granted, the injuries were an issue. But the problem is what you did was that you let a rooster in the henhouse when you had a guy that you moved up and you gave up draft capital to get, a guy that was an MVP candidate in 2017, and you let him walk out the door and you deliberately drafted a quarterback high right after you gave him a huge contract. Howie Roseman did that. No one else. Howie Roseman. All right, so let's get to number 4 what reasons over here. Howie Roseman. All right, so this is why you see a pattern here, don't you? This is one of the reasons, another one of the reasons I think Howie Roseman is the problem, and it goes back to the Carson Wentz situation, is the willingness to throw the baby out with the bathwater that he had in this situation with Jalen Hurts. So you bring in Jalen Hurts because you want insurance because Wentz is often injured, and you know that's a problem. And so you're thinking that you're going to bring him in, but as soon as the first sign of Wentz's struggles, you bail on him. It's the first time you bring in a ton of assistant coaches for Doug Peterson. Like Doug Peterson couldn't even control who his assistants were at the end because they were being picked for him. He was given what's his name from the Marty Morningweg, came in as the offensive consultant because they didn't have faith in Doug Peterson. So what they did was, in my opinion, after the Super Bowl, when Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz, were sitting on top of the world, Carson Wentz gets hurt again in 2018, and Nick leads us to another playoff successful season. In 2019, they had to have a scapegoat. They needed somebody to take the fall. And Doug Peterson started to become that man. Because I tell you what, Howie Roseman sure as hell ain't going to take the fall. He has been there since 2010. He has survived multiple head coaches. How many other GMs can you say that have survived multiple head coaching fires? He lived through the Chip Kelly era, and now he's lived through the Dougie Peterson era. The question is, will he live through the Nick Sirianni era? It remains to be seen. All right, number 5 of the reasons why we're here, Jeffrey Lurie. I'm just kidding. It's Howie Roseman. And honestly, I would say because this man is, it goes back to when we were watching the NFL draft during the COVID year, and he was sitting in his desk making those calls. And I said, is he barely even looking at the scouting report? The worst thing that we could do was have Howie Roseman in a room making all those draft decisions by himself, because that was one of the worst drafts that we've ever seen, We don't get defensive help. You look it up and down our roster. We've had free agents come in that can help, but they're not put in a position to win. He's the one who hires the coaches. So ultimately, it comes down to Howie Roseman. And that's my opinion, is when you take everything back and you look at a root cause of why the Eagles are struggling, it all comes down to one man and his job at general manager. And you could say that I'm being harsh on Howie, and I don't give him credit for the 2017 season. I am very thankful that we won a Super Bowl in 2017, and he made some good moves to make that happen. Wasn't through the draft. Mm-hmm. We brought in, LeGarrette Blount. We brought in Jay Ajayi, and it was a 1-2 punch at running back. Brought Ajayi in midway through the season. We got in Torrey Smith, and we had Alshon Jeffrey when he was in his prime. So we had Ertz on the team that carried them, when they needed a play. The defense didn't play great, but they played good enough to win with that high-powered offense, and we won a Super Bowl, and he did that. So I thank you. Now move along, because I can't let him ruin this team anymore, because we've got the potential to have 3 number 1 picks in next year's draft. And while that is exciting, especially since the Eagles are tanking and the Colts are not, going to have they could have a high draft pick. That's one of the picks we're going to have. And the Dolphins definitely are going to have a high draft pick, and that's one we're going to get. Do we really want Howie Roseman making?
This is not in defense of Howie Roseman by no stretch of the imagination. But in fairness, I like to be a little fair, Greg. I like to bring a little fairness in it. But in fairness, and we just keeping it 100. The moment Carson Wentz got hurt against the Rams and Nick Foles came in and won that Super Bowl, and then you build a statue out in front of Philadelphia, the Lincoln Financial Stadium, and then you pay Nick Foles $20 million to back up Carson Wentz in 2018. We set ourselves up, led by Howie Roseman.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, who
did
for
multiple years of unsurety, man. Because Philadelphia is such a blue collar nation, man. That whole area, all the way over to South Jersey and Camden, where I'm from. Once Nick Foles hangs around for those few years, Carson Wentz for 2018 and 2019, nobody really cared about Carson Wentz. Once Nick Foles, I'm say it third time. Once Nick Foles is really, man, he put a lot of drama in this as well too. If we're just telling the full story, we got in week 13, 14 when Wentz gets hurt. So now even going over into next year, Wentz didn't even start week 1, right? So we have Wentz on this MVP season. We win the fucking Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Of all things, Lee, we win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And Wentz can't start the beginning of the next season.
Yep.
It already created turmoil because you have a lot of confused people out there because your heart's in one place and your mind's in another place. Carson Wentz is the future, but your heart wants number 9 on the field and Nick Foles. So, and Howie Roseman is battling those emotions as well, too, with the Philadelphia audience. Mm-hmm. Nope, hey, I'm one of them. At times I'd rather see Nick Foles on the field than Carson Wentz at times. So it was some trying times, man, after that Super Bowl. And just, I'm not defending Howie Roseman, but I think the Philadelphia Eagles in general were in pure confusion after that Super Bowl win until we got to Jalen Hurts. And I think Jalen Hurts might be the scapegoat of all of this when it's all said and done, of the inability to manage the process of Wentz and Foles in the hearts of the Philadelphia minds and Eagles fans all around the world. And Jalen Hurts is like, that guy that comes afterwards.
Right.
And that's where I go again to the open arms thing.
Right.
Both these guys have this energy behind them, whether it was Wentz or Foles. I don't think Hurts has that. So Maybe he needs to go to Oklahoma to get a little bit more love, if you will.
Or yeah, and he could very well end up with another team. Who knows? It is frustrating, and you make an excellent point. I don't think you even really defended Howie Roseman. You did just point out that the scenario was really bad. It's something you have to deal with. However, in that situation, when you've got a quarterback that gets injured twice in a row and was never really fully back when he came back, and then the year that he played, people forget that Wentz did make the playoffs in 2019, and then he got taken out by Jadeveon Clowney in a head-to-head hit that knocked Wentz out of that Seattle Seahawks game, and they were actually competing in that game. And then we had to have McCown come in, and McCown was on a gimpy leg, and we ended up losing. Then the next season, we followed it up with a stinker.
But when Jadeveon Clowney hurts him, who's on that sideline, Lee? Who's on that sideline?
Well, Foles wasn't on the sideline at that point.
Wasn't on the sideline?
No, he was already gone.
Oh, this Clowney was 19.
McCown, yeah, 19.
Oh, that's when we went through all those backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, McCown was the guy that was backing up in 19. So a lot of people forget that 19 season. Wentz had a decent year. It wasn't a great.
It was the 18 season where Hurts got hurt again.
It was an 18 season where, that Wentz got hurt. Foles came in and led us almost to the NFC Championship. Right. Had we won against New Orleans and we had a 14-0 lead, we'd have gone to the NFC Championship game, and that was Foles again. But in 19, it was Wentz. He had a decent year. Problem was we had problems with the Schwartz defense, but we stayed in games, ended up, getting to the playoffs, and ended up losing to Seattle in that helmet-to-helmet hit, knocked out Wentz. So that's 3 games that 3 seasons where Wentz has gone out when we needed him. However, you draft Jalen Hurts as a insurance policy for all that.
Right.
And I'm not saying it was the worst move. It was a surprising move.
It was surprising.
You gave Wentz all that money. So if you were going to do that, why would you give him this huge contract that we're still paying for this year? We have $42 million in dead cap money because he's in Indianapolis.
And that's what make that would make Howie responsible for a lot of things just due to the contract. So I got you. We can.
So you had to do something about it. And one of the you should have possibly stood by your quarterback and your coach, but you interfered way too much with the process and you let him down. So now we've got a new guy and he's struggling out there because
hold on. But before we move on, remember I told you. Remember I texted you last year. What did I say about Wentz?
Oh, what
did I say about Wentz?
That he's going to end up going to Indianapolis and probably
we are going to regret.
Yeah, exactly. And
moving on from Wentz. I just wanted to for the records. I just wanted to, in real time. I text you. I said, "Hey, man, we're going to regret moving on from Wentz."
Well, here's the thing: is he's not playing his greatest ball. If he's made some mistakes, if you watch the fumble that he did on the goal line against San Francisco, it was a horrible little shovel pass he tried to throw, but all in all, he's 11 touchdowns, 1 interception, and they just beat San Francisco. They're on after starting the season really rough, they're on a 3-game winning streak. And it's like the Colts are starting to hit their stride right now with him. And it's because of Frank Reich's nurturing and the way he handles his quarterbacks. And when we lost him after the 2017 season, I knew we were in trouble. So, and I think that's where we're at right now with Jalen Hurts, is that we don't have the coaching infrastructure that can help him be successful like Wentz now went back to in Indianapolis. It's a perfect marriage. So that brings us to our next segment, which is the stupid news. Headline of the week. And this one, it's kind of interesting because the first time I looked at it, I said, is it really a stupid headline? Because at first I thought, oh, this is dumb to be saying this now. It's a headline from the Philadelphia Sports Nation website, and it says, is it time for Minshew Mania in Philly? And it's got a picture of Gardner Minshew, who, if you didn't read about it, the Eagles traded Joe Flacco, our second-round quarterback, to the New York Jets, who are hurting after Zach Wilson went out, for quarterback help. So he goes back to New York for a 6th-round pick, making Gardner Minshew our number 2 guy. So now people are saying, was that a move to kind of put Gardner Minshew in spot to take over for Jalen Hurts? First, I'm like, that's stupid. I mean, right now at this point of the season, we're going into week 8. Come on now. Why would we do something like this? But then you think about it and you go, there are multiple, if you actually read the article, this may not be a stupid news headline. It kind of on the surface looks like it, but it also is. There's multiple reasons why Gardner Minshew taking over for Hurts makes sense. One of the things. Yeah, go ahead.
I think if you're going to make this decision, you got to understand why is Hurts your quarterback. Hurts is your quarterback because you moved on from Wentz. If you're going to tell me that in 11 starts, you're all ready to move on from Hurts, you better be ready to move on from Hurts. You know, the media is one thing, but, you know, you got to let Hurts go through his trouble and his pains as well, too. But we're in the league where it's, you know, this isn't the Peyton Manning era where you can go 2-14 in your rookie season and people just go, well, he'll be better next year, or 1-15. Oh, he'll be better next year. This is a win now league. But on our bench is a quarterback that went 1-6, 1-15 last year. So again, I strongly emphasize, if you are going to move on, if you're going to bench Jalen Hurts, he is going to feel like this is an Alabama situation all over again. And how can you get him back? You might as well trade for him. So I'm not ready for Minshew. I'm not. Because if we're going to go to Gardner Minshew, I don't see no turning back from this point. And it just puts us in another, then why did we use a second round pick on Jalen Hurts when we could have built around Carson Wentz? Because I would still rather have Carson Wentz than either of the two right now. That's just my opinion. So it just frustrates me more that if you're going to go with Gardner Minshew, who was still backing up Joe Flacco, that has to be said as well. Mm-hmm. If you still can't beat out Flacco on the depth chart, you're coming off a 1-15, 1-16 season where you're also hurt. But if I'm looking at the positive side of looking at Gardner Minshew coming in, if you're going to have an offense where you just choose not to run, well, you have a Washington State quarterback that, you know what, threw the ball about 55 times a game. So if we're going to bring it full circle based off of, remember I said the first podcast, we don't even know if this is Sirianni's quarterback. Nope. This has nothing to do with Jalen Hurts. It's not always an indictment on Jalen Hurts when you want to make a change. I just want to make that clear. This may not very well be Sirianni's quarterback. And we mentioned that. I mentioned that from day one. We're not even sure. We're basing all of this off of what Doug Peterson and Howie Roseman thought was going to work for Jalen Hurts. Now, Jalen Hurts is in a completely different situation than he was drafted into. Right. So if you're going to go Gardner Minshew, then you better damn well be ready to use one of those first-round draft picks on a quarterback, because I can't definitively say that Gardner Minshew is the future. But if you're going to bench Jalen Hurts, be prepared to maybe trade him. Right. I'm just be willing to go all the way with it, because he's wearing that captain across his chest. That means the players have voted him captain. Mind you, the coaches don't pick the captain. The players you're in the trenches with pick you as a captain.
Right.
So you already have a defensive captain that's not sure about the defensive coordinator. That's an indictment on the head coach, because he picks his coordinators. I say this again: if you're willing to go to Minshew, then we must be drafting a quarterback in this upcoming draft. Yeah, man, that's just how I feel about Gardner Minshew. Can he come and give us a spark? Yes. Is he going to lead us past Dallas? I'm not sure of that. So it's Washington and Giants. I'm not worrying about them, but can he lead us past the Dallas Cowboys with a hurt Miles Sanders? I'm not really sure of that. But I damn sure believe in our receivers, man. I really think, can he light up Devontae Smith's stats? I think he can do just as he did with DJ Chark. I really believe that. He can light some numbers up. Our offense is going to go up. So going a little ramble, but if we're not going to run the ball, then maybe Gardner Minshew is our choice, because Jalen Hurts is a dual threat quarterback in a very positive manner. He's a dual threat quarterback. But I think if Sirianni wants to throw the ball as much as he's asking Jalen Hurts to do, I know there's a lot of RPOs in there, decisions from Hurts, but if he's going to ask Jalen Hurts to do that much, then maybe Minshew is if Minshew comes in and runs off a few games, then maybe we go, okay, maybe we just need a passing quarterback.
Right.
So,
Well, what you said, the thing that I really identify with is first of all, Gardner Minshew has never shown me anything when he was in Jacksonville other than the fact that he could throw a few pretty passes and that he likes to wear retro clothing and be in funky commercials. I mean, that's all I ever saw from him. He was more flash than substance, in my opinion, as far as a player. Otherwise, he would still be in Jacksonville right now and Trevor Lawrence wouldn't be there. That's my opinion. So what you said, though, is key. I think every game from here on out is an audition for Hurts's future. If he loses to Detroit on Sunday and then struggles even past that, even if he beats Detroit, but then comes right back and lays an egg in the next game, then Hurts is going to be facing the decision again. It goes back to Howie Roseman, to where, like you said, is Hurts the guy? As soon as they make that call that Hurts is no longer the guy, he's on the bench, because then they want to bring in Minshew not to win games,
right.
to tank.
To tank.
And you can say they don't want to tank, that no team tanks. We did it last year when we could have beat the Redskins and kept the Giants from going to and had the Giants going into the playoffs. Instead, we just benched Hurts and said, go on, Redskins, you win. You go ahead and go to the playoffs. And Giants are off about that. That was a tank.
Right.
This team will tank. And Gardner Minshew is not going to be brought in. He's going to be brought in to make the fans feel a little bit better, because once you bench the quarterback, hey, somebody's taking the blame for how bad they're doing. But they don't expect to win with Gardner Minshew, in my opinion. It's about raising up our draft capital. So if we've got Miami's pick, the Colts pick, and our pick, we could potentially have 3 of the top 15 picks in next year's draft. That's what they want. So that's not such a, when you look at it, that's not just a stupid news headline of the week. It's actually kind of shrewd. Do I want to see it happen? Not right now. I want to see things turn around. But my fear is, with this coaching staff and this general manager, I don't know if it's possible. I think the only thing that is probably going to help this team is to do the Etch-a-Sketch treatment. Just shake that shit up, erase it all, and get rid of the general manager. You can't get rid of the owner unless he sells the team, but you can damn sure get rid of Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni, Jonathan Gannon, bring in a new guy, bring in a new coaching staff, and maybe somebody can work better with Hurts, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So next segment we've got is a real quick one. It's our meme of the week. Normally we attack the team that we're getting ready to play, and the truth of the matter is trying to attack the team that we're going to play this week is probably too easy, because we're playing the Detroit Lions, who have not won a game yet. So we're going to keep it on the theme with our coaching staff and talk about the meme of the week is about Nick Sirianni. And what we've got is Nick Sirianni playing Uno, and he's pulled a card that says run the football or draw 25 cards. And then it shows a picture of Nick Sirianni with 25 cards in his hand, because this man will not run the ball. Unfortunately, during the Raiders game, it started out really well. He was running the ball. Sanders had 6 carries for 30 yards, and then they threw a stupid screen pass that got him killed, and now Miles Sanders is out with an ankle injury. So with Gainwell and Boston Scott in there, it's hard to feel like the Eagles are going to go exclusively with the run, because they don't have a running game to speak of with Boston Scott and Gainwell. It's not going to be bad, but it definitely isn't going to be the level that Miles Sanders would bring them. They are looking at bringing Jordan Howard off the practice squad, but Jordan Howard's on his last legs. So this is really a problem with this offense. Like you said, if Sirianni wants to just pass 50 times a game, that's what he's going to do. And if you're running RPOs, that's what you're going to have happen. So that's the meme of the week is run the football or draw 25 cards. And Sirianni will draw those 25 cards every time, because the guy makes bad decisions.
100%. Now, this is a good meme, man. I mean, no matter how much you dare him, he is just going to simply not run the football. This is just the most absurd coaching decision I've ever seen, man, from a coach, just simply not run the football. It's crazy, man.
And if it continues, like I said, even against the Lions, if we come out and we do the bubble screens and the offense is doing that, it's just going to it's going to play right into the Lions' hands, who's one of the worst defenses in the league. We're not going to win against the Lions if we're going to play that kind of game. And
we should have hired Mike Leach if that was the case.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to do is Eric Coryell still available from the old 70s San Diego Chargers, where he just Dan Fouts throwing the ball, always down the field? I mean, this is giving it a whole new meaning to just run and shoot. To bring back what's his name from the Jerry Glanville from the Houston Oilers, and just do the run and shoot all the time, but with no run, just all shoot, just a shoot and shoot offenses. That's what it is. So every time I think of Nick Sirianni these days, I think of a clip from The Office, and it's,
why are you the way that you are? Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way. I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
And that's how I feel about our head coach right now. It's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, man.
And I see any of them, him or Gannon right now, it's just discouraging is what it is. So
yeah, man.
But we've still got to keep playing the games. We're not going to stop the podcast because we're 2-5.
Right.
We have an opponent. Here's the thing about this week. I'm having a hard time even getting excited. We've got the 0-7 Lions coming to town. Haven't won a game yet. But I don't feel good. I don't feel good after that Raiders performance. And I started today. I was looking down the list of the games that the Lions have played. And week 1, they lost to the Bills by 1 point. Week 2, they lost to the Steelers by 6 points. Week 3, they lost to the Colts by 10 points. Week 4, they lost 41-33 to the 49ers. And of course, I was going back into preseason. Sorry, let me back up. I was looking at preseason. I don't want to go that far. So week 1, they lost to the 49ers 33-41. That was a shootout game that went back and forth. Week 2, they lost to the Packers 35-17. Week 3, they lost to the Ravens 19-17. To the Ravens. They only lost by 2. Week 4 against the Bears, who have got a great defense, they lost 14-24. The next week against the Minnesota Vikings, division rival, they lost another one 17-19. And then they lost recently to the Bengals. They got blown out. The Bengals really gave it to them 34-11. And then this past week, as 15-point underdogs, they go into Los Angeles, fight tooth and nail, and came out with a 9-point loss, 28-19 to Los Angeles. This is a team that loses every game, but not as bad as we lose when we lose. And that's what frightens me. So it's time for your keys to victory, if you want to call it that. How do you see the Eagles coming away from going to Detroit and getting a victory? Because I'm telling you what, we've talked about that I almost went to this game because it's not far from where I live. But if I went to this game, it's a good thing I'm not going, because I probably would give the Eagles the Tennessee treatment, the volunteer fans treatment, because I would be throwing bottles and mustard and all kinds of crap I could get my hands on at that team if they start losing this game to the Lions. I kid you not. It's crazy.
Man, it just feels like a perfect game for the Lions to win their first game. You take a franchise that is went 0-16. I mean, the ultimate loser franchise. 0-16. I mean, that's a pretty bad deal. But it just seems like everything's set up for them to get their first win on Halloween, but not so fast. I still think the Birds are going to win. The keys to this game, man, when you look at Goff, has still only thrown 1 touchdown over the last 4 weeks. That's a big deal. You're right. They have been in games. But even you look at last week, Swift takes that little dink of a screen. He takes it, 74 yards? And, you still got Matthew Stafford. And Matthew Stafford can have his ups and downs as well, too. And they won it on, I don't think the last drive or the drive before the last of the game. So you're right, man. The Lions was in that game. They were in that Baltimore game as well, too. Throughout the entire game, they fought very hard, and it's almost like I think they're either going to go 0-16 if they lose to the Eagles, or this is going to be their first win. It's Halloween in Detroit. It just seems like everything is set up for them to get their first win. But like I said, man, but Goff has still only thrown 1 touchdown over the past 4 weeks, so that plays kind of into to their strengths with with Swift and Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams has been running the ball really well, and it just plays into our weakness this year. Overall, the Eagles give up like 120 plus yards a game on the ground, but they only rank 8th in the league as far as yards per carry. So it's just another weird stat I think when I talked about last week. Like, we give up the most yards per game, per catch, but overall, our defense ranks in the top 10. So yeah, man. So I think our keys, so because they don't have a good passing game, I think this can give us some help for Edwards and Singleton at that linebacker position. So we should be able to give them a little more help. The Lions haven't had a consistent receiver over the past few weeks. I think what was the guy that was it? Look at my Lord, Raymond. Raymond had a good week. Like, he had 115 yards. Raymond, I don't even know who this guy is. It's like every week. I mean, we got Hutchinson. I hope he doesn't have a Moreau game on us. That would, Moreau had 6 catches on us, and Hutchinson is a quality receiver. I think you have him on your fantasy football team as well too. Yeah, man. So, they do have 2 good running backs. In Swift, who's a hell of a pass catcher. You see what happened last week. But as far as from the Eagles standpoint, I think we may have to see a showing from Jordan Howard, more designated runs from Jordan Howard, see where that takes us. Just try to take the ball out of Hurts' hands, because we looked good in that first quarter when we had those designated runs like we talked about before. They just looked more fluid, and like the line was more motivated, and we got those 7 and 9 yard runs from Sanders. The Lions are last in the passing game. Mm-hmm. They aren't good. Mm-mm. So if we are going to see if Hurts can get the passing game going in any game, you're going against the worst passing defense in the NFL. I think this is a good game for Hurts to get going. We played a bad defense like the Chiefs. If we can try to duplicate the offense on a bad defense that we did with the Chiefs, if that makes sense, then I think we have a lot of hope, man, going into there. So, and we also face another team that's going into a bye week, just like the Raiders, where they're just going to give it their all. They're 0-7. They're going to empty the clip on us, just empty the tank. And all those little things we have to worry about going in, but I still think the Birds are going to win 24-17. I think if we can stop the run, I think we can have a pretty comfortable day if we have the same offense that we had against Kansas City. That's my hope in this game, man. What you think about that?
Well, the Eagles are actually favored in this game, which they haven't been favored in a while, by 3.5 at Detroit. My biggest problem is after that Raider game, and I know you said Jared Goff hasn't had but 1 touchdown in the last several games. This defense can make the most average quarterback look like Joe Montana or whoever. Insert great quarterback here. That Goff could look like Tom Brady on Sunday if Jonathan Gannon doesn't change. Every week, I think he's going to. I think he's going to go back to that Carolina game where he pressured Sam Darnold into making mistakes, where he pressured Sam Darnold into bad throws, because we actually probably put more pressure on the quarterback in that game than I've seen all season. Maybe the Atlanta game in week 1. I haven't seen that since, except Atlanta and Carolina. I don't know what it is about the NFC South. Maybe he just doesn't like those teams. I don't know, but Gannon is the one who worries me, and the fact that the defense is hanging their head down, because they don't, like you said, the Lions don't have weapons at wide receiver. They got Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then they've got Khalif Raymond, who has been in the league for 5 years out of Holy Cross, and all of a sudden goes off for 115 yards against the Rams, which is surprising. But they do have Hawkinson going up against their horrible linebacking core. So I'm kind of glad I'm starting Hawkinson this week, because he has the potential to have 2 or 3 touchdowns. So it might help me out. But unfortunately, I can't invest in this team and think they're going to win, because we're yin and yang as far as Eagles fan goes. You're more the positive one. You tend to believe in them every week, and I'm the one that's ready to jump off the top of the link, if you will, just because I can't take it anymore. And that's how I feel about this one, is that as much as I want them to beat the Lions, and I grew up in Detroit, so I know how bad the Lions are. The reason I'm an Eagles fan is because the Lions are so bad. I couldn't even root for them when I was a kid. And I became an Eagles fan because my uncle was from that area and used to bring me Eagles stuff all the time. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to be an Eagles fan. Heck with the Lions. But I do have a kind of a sentimental, place in my heart because I grew up them as the hometown team. Never really rooted for them other than maybe when Barry Sanders was there. And they're not a good team. Their defense, I mean, other than Brockers on the defensive line and Trey Flowers, I don't think they have many defensive players that can threaten us. But I just don't trust this coaching staff to put us in positions to win. I think they're going to come out with this weak pass defense that the Lions have, and they're going to throw bubble screens, and they're going to throw wide receiver screens, and they're going to throw in the flat, and just hope these receivers can run, because that's all the coaching staff seems to do is these vanilla high percentage plays. So as much as I want the Eagles to cover this 3.5, if I'm a betting man, I'm going to take Detroit in 3.5 because all the other things that you said going into the bye week, it being Halloween, the Lions are at home. There's a lot of incentive for them to get a win, even if they're not going to do anything this year, to at least go into the bye week on a high. And so that's going to be tough. So looking at the game in detail, we've got their injury report here. And what's sad is that 2 key players for us on this right now, maybe even 3, is we've got Lane Johnson, who's questionable with an ankle injury that he suffered against the Raiders. It's going to be huge if he's out again. We're not going to be able to run the ball with Scott, Jordan, or Gainwell if Lane's not their anchor in that right side. And of course, we've got Miles Sanders, our running back, is questionable. More than likely not going to play. Hopefully he will play the week after this, but that's not even a certainty right now. We expect Kevon Wallace to be back for this game and Tyree Jackson. With us losing Ertz, it'd be nice to get a second tight end out there, not only just for blocking, but to spell Goddard occasionally. And then our one of our safeties, Anthony Harris, is questionable. And so I have to, before I get into the Lions injuries, I got to talk about Anthony Harris's injury. And I want to bring up a graphic. I don't know if you saw this. Oh,
yeah.
So Anthony Harris is apparently questionable for Sunday's game with injuries to both his hands and his groin.
Bruh. The comments took me out, man, especially the second one.
Yeah.
So how you beat your meat and your meat fight back. That one took me out, man. I couldn't even read the third one, but he called him a freak bull. That's how you know that freak bull. That's how you know that's a Philadelphia person. Whoever wrote that comment, freak bull, that is a Philadelphia person, 100%. That is lingo straight from Philly.
This is the Twitter comments. The Twitter feed just went off. Like the first comment is both his hands and his groin. I have some questions. It does raise some questions. I hate to say I've probably been there. I've been there. So I
living his best life.
He was poor Anthony Harris. We hope you get better soon. And until the season ends, man, just stop. Just lay off it for a little bit so that we can have you out there on the field, man. So that's the Eagles injury report. After that, we got the Lions. Trey Flowers is questionable. Like I mentioned him before, he's a danger. If he's not on the field, that does make their defense even more susceptible. One of their backup running backs is questionable. A.J. Parker, one of their corners, which they were weak cornerback to begin with. A fullback is hurt, and then there's one of their centers has an undisclosed injuries. So it could go either way. Really, it comes back that they don't have a lot of great talent on the field. So it's to me, unfortunately, I hate to say this against an 0-7 team, it's a toss-up because the Eagles are sitting at 2-5 and they're not much better. I think the talent on the Eagles side is better. They're just not being coached or playing to the level that they need to be. So that's the report and the preview for the Lions and the Eagles coming up Sunday on Halloween. And there it is, 1:00 at Ford Field, 2-5 versus 0-7. And then after that, in week 9, which is November 7th at 4:05, we go to play the Los Angeles Chargers coming into Lincoln Financial Field. That should be an easy game, he said sarcastically.
Man, it's a winnable game, but definitely not an easy one. It's still winnable.
Oh, I don't know. You can say every game is winnable, but not
That game is winnable. I think long as you have, long as you're always facing a young quarterback can make a lot of mistakes in the game. If you look at last week, Justin Herbert, I went against him in fantasy football. He did terrible.
Yeah.
And I won kind of because he did so bad. Not this week, but the week before last, going into, I think they coming off a bye week. Yeah, they're coming off a bye week. They don't have 6 games. So we are obviously we don't play them coming off the bye week this week, but Justin Herbert can still have those games.
I think against this defense, again, it goes back to if we're playing the defense that we're playing right now, we're playing the schemes that we're playing right now, we're not going to win against a good passer. And Justin Herbert is a good passer.
And I guess maybe this is some of my Oregon Ducks bias, because I watched him in college. He was Oregon Ducks quarterback, and he can, no matter the team, we can be facing Arizona, who has a weak defense, and he will just won't show up that game. But he's a lot better than he was then.
Yeah, I agree.
I think something to be worried about for sure.
He's one of the future stars of the league, and honestly, to me, the defense has to completely start from scratch. They have to throw this scheme out, and as long as Jonathan Gannon is still running even the announcers during the Raiders game was like, at some point you've got to go single high safety to where you're trying to stop the run and putting some pressure on the receivers and make some plays. And they're not going to do that. And if Gannon continues to play 2 deep, cover 2 zone, quarters defense, occasionally the shell defense, they won't win against the Chargers. But we'll get to that one after we deal with the 0-7 Lions. After that, we got November 14th going to Denver. You're going to that game, so that'll be enjoyable one way or the other. At least you'll be outdoors. You can enjoy the sun, even if the Eagles get throttled in that one. That could be an interesting game. And then after that, the Saints come to town. They come to Lincoln Financial Field on November 21st. So that'll be, we'll see where the Saints are at that point. Right now, the Saints are sitting at 3-2. They just barely beat Seattle in Seattle, a very weak Seattle team with a late field goal on Monday night, which was kind of an interesting game, mostly all defense, but what are you going to do? So we got them to look forward to. We don't get a bye for forever. It is insane.
Week 14, I believe, is our first bye.
We need a break, and we don't get one.
We have to run the table here. We 100% have to run the table here and come out of this 6-5, man. If we're even going to think about, the Cowboys are 6-1 right now. That's absurd.
I know it. Yeah. Well, I don't want to talk about the Cowboys, but I will, under my breath, say they got a pretty good team. But we'll see. Anyway, so next segment that we have for you is our fantasy results. This I'm completely and utter shocked. I finally got my second win of the season in dominant fashion, and it's because I started Jalen Hurts, because that garbage time led to points for me. 37 points for Jalen Hurts. Jamar Chase, of course, went off for me with 34, and I have Deebo Samuel. I got a pretty good receiving core because I got DK Metcalf as well. I got probably 3 of the better receivers in fantasy. I just have no running backs, but I got to play Herbert and Johnson, who are in backup roles in Chicago and Cleveland. So I wish they could continue to start for me. I wish that Chubb wasn't coming back this week, although I do have Chubb too. And I got Hawkinson. So 176 to 93 against Outcast in our league. And you squeaked by with a victory, Lord Vader. 123 to 105. Your quarterbacks there. Mahomes only 13 points in fantasy. Woo.
Bro, so quick note here. Beat the Block, one of our previous champions in the league. He had who did he have on his bench that would have lit me up? He had Dak Prescott and Buffalo's quarterback Allen.
Oh,
he had the bench Allen and Prescott this week. So I definitely, if any week Patrick Mahomes is going to have a chance. This is against Jimmy Garoppolo. So I was really happy when he started Jimmy Garoppolo. And when I seen the weather report in San Francisco, man, I definitely squeaked by with the win here. That late touchdown by Pittman helped a lot. But I had a pretty average week altogether. And Ertz obviously got me a little touchdown, still continuing with Ertz. And I have, man. So
16 points for Ertz in his first game as a Cardinal. The first player to score back-to-back touchdowns for 2 different teams in straight weeks, going from Philly scoring and then going to Arizona. His cleats and the ball are going to the Hall of Fame.
Really?
Right? Yeah. Congratulations. They called up as soon as he scored the touchdown. This has never been done. Zach, we need your stuff. So they sent his cleats. It'll be like there when we went up there and we saw Nick Foles' gear from the 7th touchdown game. So Zach Ertz is, and I've got him in my other league, so thank goodness, because I think he's going to continue to light it up in Arizona. Now, this week against Detroit, as far as playing fantasy players of the Eagles, I would say definitely I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts again because it's the Lions. I got to take a flyer. My other quarterback is Carr, so I'm going to go with Hurts and see what I can do. And then as far as the rest of the Eagles, Goddard is probably a good play. I picked up Gainwell because I do have Miles Sanders who's out, and I might start Gainwell. I'm really going to have to make it a kind of game day decision. I thought about picking up Scott because they're going to give him more of the regular carries, but I think Gainwell should get a lot of touches, especially being able to work with the first team offense.
Yeah.
So I think getting him touches out of the backfield in the passing game is going to make a difference against the Lions. It could really be a factor in them beating the Lions if they get Gainwell out open, and not bubble screens, mind you. I'm talking about swing passes out of the backfield where he can do in space and get past the linebackers. Screens, he'll get murdered like Sanders because we can't seem to run a screen game. Other than that, Devontae Smith is probably a good play, and even on the outside edge, maybe Jalen Reagor might be a good play because
I thought so too.
How bad the Lions defense is in the passing game. So this is kind of a good good week to play some of the Eagles players if you got them. So that's our fantasy report. Give it a shot with some of the Eagles this week against an 0-7 Lions team. What do you got to lose if you got these guys? And that brings us to our final segment, which is our picks games. We run a pick game with some of our friends of the podcast. If you ever want to be a part of it, all you got to do is shoot us an email at the email address below, like I mentioned earlier, and you might be able to get into it next season. But right now we've got 19 players, and we're pretty happy with that. This week I had my first negative week. I went 6-7 in pro, 1-3 in college, and it led me to a -10. So luckily it wasn't worse than that in the points, because the way it works is you get 10 points for a correct pick, -10 for a loss, and then you get a double that's worth 20 points either way. So I went -10 with a 6-7 pro. I did get my lock of the week, so that wasn't too bad. But I'm right now only holding on to a slim margin of 100 points, which really equates to 5 games over second place Dustin Schmidt. After that, we got third place Tim Case with 70. Fourth is CJ Clark with 50. Chris Buddy has 30 in fifth, tied with Roger Adamson with 30, and Darren Muir and Dan Brockman and Cynthia Case all sitting at 10 points, in a tie for 7th. So this week, for week 8, I'm going to give you my picks against the spread. I'm going to run through these real quick for you, and you can choose whether you want to listen to these or not. I'm struggling this week, but I have been doing pretty good this season. So for the Thursday night game, Arizona is given 6.5 to Green Bay. Arizona is at home. I am going to give those points to Green Bay. Green Bay has got 2 key players out. They've got both Devontae Adams out on COVID, and Lazard just got pulled for COVID. So that's going to hurt Aaron Rodgers, and I got to go with Kyler Murray in that offense at home. The next game after that, Buffalo at home, given 13.5 to Miami. I will take Buffalo giving those points because of it's Miami right now. They did come back against Atlanta to only lose by 2, but it was Atlanta. That brings me to the next game. Atlanta at home, going against Carolina. A lot of people picking Atlanta in this game. I think this is a bounce back game for Carolina because Carolina was not playing bad until they got up against some good teams. I think they might bounce back on this. So I'm going to take the 3 points on the road for Carolina. Then it comes to our game, the Eagles at Detroit, given 3.5. Eagles may win, but I don't know if they can win by 3.5. They may win by just by a field goal, so I'm going to bank on that and take the Lions. Unfortunately, I apologize. I do love the Eagles, but I'm also a realist. After that, we got Tennessee Titans on the road at the Colts facing Carson Wentz. Tennessee is only giving 1 point on the road. I am taking Tennessee because of Derrick Henry, because their offense is playing against some really good defenses, and I'm going to make it my lock of the week. That's my double for the week. I got to go with Tennessee in this situation. I like what the Colts are doing, but they don't think they've run into a team like Tennessee just yet. We'll see what happens. The Rams are on the road to Houston, given 14.5, and the way the Houston's played the last 2 weeks, getting really blown out completely, I got to take and give those points to them. 14.5, I'm going to take the Rams. Cincinnati's given 10 points at the New York Jets. Again, Cincinnati coming off a big win against Baltimore. I'm going to go ahead and give those 10 points to the Jets. After that, we got Cleveland at home, given 3.5 to Pittsburgh. I'm going to take Pittsburgh on the road. Cleveland's really banged up right now, and this is a game that Pittsburgh really needs to have in their back pocket, especially the way their season is going right now. This is a redemption game for them. After that, we got San Francisco on the road at Chicago, given 3. I'm gonna take a chance and go with Chicago just because that defense at home has been playing lights out with a lot of teams, and I think they're being underestimated. I think Justin Fields is coming into his own, so we'll see what happens with that game. After that, we got Jacksonville on the road at Seattle. I have said before, I will not take the Seattle Seahawks as long as Geno Smith is quarterback in that team, and it's the same this week. I think watching that New Orleans Saints game, he struggled every time he had the ball, and I think that that's going to make a big difference here. If anything changes, I may change his pick, but for right now, as long as Geno Smith's the starter, I'm going to take Jacksonville and the 3 points. But then we got the Chargers at home, giving 5.5 to New England. I'm going to take Herbert and the Chargers at that game at home. I know New England's been playing well, but not beating the Chargers well enough. Denver is at home, giving 3 to Washington. I'm going to take a flyer. The Denver's on a skid right now. I'm going to take Washington. They've been kind of hanging around with some teams. They've got the chance to have some really explosive plays with McLaurin and Gibson, and Heineke is not too bad. It's bad, but not too bad. So I take Washington and take the 3 points. After that, we got New Orleans getting 5 from Tampa Bay at home. I'm going to take New Orleans, and here's why. Tampa Bay always tends to struggle when they have to go to New Orleans, and I don't care if it's Tom Brady or whoever. New Orleans defense always tends to show up. They've been playing great defense. If Jameis can limit his mistakes, then get the ball to Kamara and their other weapons, I think New Orleans can keep it within 5. So I'm going to go ahead and go with New Orleans in that game. After that, we've got Dallas giving 2.5 at Minnesota. Definitely going to take the Cowboys. I think the Minnesota's overmatched in that game. I think that could be they should have even made that spread a little bit bigger, but we'll see what happens. And then finally, we got Kansas City on at home giving 10 points to the visiting New York Giants. This was a hard one to pick, and ultimately I went with the Giants, not because I believe in them, but because I don't believe in the Kansas City defense. Kansas City defense gives up way too many points, and they make way too many mistakes on offense. The Eagles nearly beat them. I think the Giants are kind of coming up off a high after beating Carolina. I think they have a shot to maybe not win, but maybe keep it within 10. After that, by 3 college games, I picked Coastal Carolina last week, and they let me down and ended up losing that game to Appalachian State, which was a bummer. But I'm not going to stop believing in them just yet. They're giving 18.5 to Troy at home. I'm going to go ahead and ride the Coastal Carolina train one more time and take Coastal Carolina. After that, we've got Kentucky is giving 1.5 at Mississippi State. I'm going to go ahead and give Kentucky. They've been playing decent ball enough to beat Mississippi State on the road. And after that, I got BYU, again, another team that's kind of been up and down, but they're only given 2.5 to visiting Virginia. So I am going to take BYU and the 2.5 points. And that's my picks for week number 8 against the spread. And that kind of closes it out. So Halloween, we've talked about that. You got the kids going to go out trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Your boy's going to be Venom.
Venom. Baby girl's going to be Unicorn, and I'm sure one of us will be here passing out candy.
Anything else planned for the weekend?
And this weekend, no, not really this weekend. I am going, not this week. I mean, Halloween is going to be a thing. You know, when you're an adult, you got to help the kids, all that good stuff. So we're going to be passing out candy, man. And I did finally see Bond last week, so I'm pretty cool about that.
What'd you think about Bond?
We'll talk offline. Offline. But I liked it, man. I liked it. The wife was crying at the end.
Oh, no. Really, don't want to give any spoilers away, but yeah. It was good.
Yeah. See, that's why I try to talk about offline.
No worries.
Yeah, man.
That brings us to the end of the show. Like you said, this weekend, I'm glad the Eagles game is on at 1, because I definitely don't want any trick-or-treaters at my door interrupting the Eagles game, or they're going to get tricks. They're going to get, I'm going to give them fruit or vegetables in their bags if they come around during the Eagles game. So kids, be warned. Yeah, rock. If they don't come until the Eagles game is over, it's weird because it's being on a Sunday. They could come at any time. Who knows?
Right.
But we're coming to another end, and I don't know. We'll see how things go on Sunday. I'm nervous. I know you feel optimistic, but after the Raiders game, I got my stress pills here. So I got my stress. I'm gonna be clutching on these. I'll probably eat the whole jar of stress pills on Sunday, trying to calm down because I can't handle it.
Wow.
But anyway, it is what it is. Final words, Tubby.
24-17, Philadelphia Eagles. Happy Halloween to all of those that celebrate. And fly, Eagles, fly.
And I'll follow that up with a Go Birds and a happy Halloween to everyone out there. We'll be back next week a little bit earlier because we're going to do a recap of the Lions game. So if you want to do the live stream, that'll be on Monday on YouTube Live, Twitch, and Facebook Live.
Check us out.
Check us out on all the podcast providers on Audible and Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, anything you want to. And if you want to email us, do that at lee.bird@gmail.com. So Tubby, give me one more. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Fly, Eagles, fly.
And go Birds. Beat them Lions.